One minute everything's calm in the Sicilian town of Niscemi, and the next, the earth itself is slowly tearing it apart. A creeping, relentless landslide has gripped the community, and this isn't some dramatic cliff drop caught on camera. It's worse. It's quiet, it's constant, and it's getting more dangerous by the day. Niscemi, nestled in the Caltanissetta province of southern Italy, is in the middle of a geological emergency. Not a one-time landslide, not a single crack on a hillside.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
This is a full-blown, actively growing, slow-motion disaster that just keeps spreading. What started as a minor slope failure is now a wide-scale mass movement and underground shift that's eating through roads, ripping open neighborhoods, and bending infrastructure until it snaps. The ground is moving, literally, and the scariest part, it doesn't stop. This all started after an extreme storm dumped endless rain on the region far beyond anything the land could handle. The soil here, made mostly of clay, is basically the worst-case scenario when it gets soaked. It absorbs water like a sponge until it turns into a sludgy, unstable mess. That rainfall saturated the hillside so completely that the soil lost its grip. It's not just wet dirt, it's a liquefied layer that can't support anything above it. Now gravity is doing the rest. As water builds up inside the soil, the pressure rises, cohesion drops, and the hillside starts sliding inch by inch, day by day. Scientists are tracking it all in real time, and the measurements are terrifying. Cracks are widening at several centimeters per day. You can actually measure the creep with satellite data, drones, and ground sensors. They've got inclinometers, GPS, remote sensing, you name it, feeding back evidence of constant motion. People in Niscemi are hearing it too. The land isn't just cracking, it's talking. Locals report hearing eerie sounds, snaps, groans, shifting noises from underground, especially after rain. Homes are splitting, streets are buckling. Agricultural fields that supported generations are tearing apart at the seams. And still, the ground moves. It's not just one hillside. This thing has spread out into multiple sectors of the town. And the velocity isn't slowing. If anything, it's gaining. Entire neighborhoods have been forced to evacuate. Authorities didn't wait, they pulled the trigger on mass evacuations as soon as data showed the risk was growing. Thousands of people have been displaced, their homes sitting above a landscape that looks still, but is actively breaking apart underneath. And no, this isn't something you can just rebuild on. The soil is unstable, the slope is compromised, and if you think things can go back to normal once the weather clears, think again. Experts are warning that surface stability is incredibly deceptive. The slope could suddenly give way again if water levels spike or if that underground pressure crosses a certain point. That's why residents can't return, yet not even temporarily. The risks are simply too high. The real threat isn't what you see, it's what's happening underneath. And here's the brutal reality. This isn't just about Niscemi. Scientists are calling this a warning shot for climate-induced landslide risk across the Mediterranean. The kind of rain that triggered this collapse, it's becoming more common. Why? Because warmer air holds more moisture. That means storms are getting stronger, rainfall is getting heavier, and fragile landscapes like this one are getting pushed past their limits. In Sicily, where towns have existed for centuries on clay-heavy hillsides, this is a nightmare scenario. That clay, it becomes plastic when wet. It stretches, it slips, it stops holding weight. Over generations, human development, roads, homes, farms has loaded up these slopes and altered the natural drainage patterns. Trees have been cleared, roots have been weakened, and all the little things that used to keep the soil together, gone. Add extreme weather into that mix, and you're looking at a ticking time bomb. Infrastructure is barely hanging on. Water pipes, electrical lines, transportation routes, they're all sitting on a moving slope. And it's not theoretical anymore. The land is actively shifting beneath them. If this keeps up, the town could be cut off from basic services entirely. Officials are scrambling to monitor weak points, reroute supply lines, and hold things together long enough to stop the worst-case scenario. But there's only so much they can do. Even the emergency shelters are under pressure. This isn't a short-term crisis. Stabilization could take weeks, maybe longer. That depends entirely on the weather. If things stay dry, the soil might slowly drain. But if another storm hits, all baits are off. This is a crisis that doesn't explode, it crawls. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Sudden disasters get attention. Slow disasters erode lives piece by piece. And it's not just physical destruction. The emotional toll is real. Families who've lived in the same homes for generations are now split apart. Farmers are watching their fields crumble. Cultural landmarks are at risk. Community trust is fraying. The longer this goes on, the more it eats away at the social fabric of Niscemi.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
It's a hard thing to process watching your town collapse not in an instant, but in a relentless, invisible slide. And here's where the science really comes in. This isn't just about emergency response anymore. This is about anticipation. Real-time monitoring is the only reason people were able to evacuate safely. Without those satellite feeds, those ground sensors, those inch-by-inch updates, this could have been a deadly disaster. We're moving into a new era of climate hazard. One where we don't just react to landslides, we try to predict them. The technology exists, the models are improving, but the political and economic will to build long-term resilience, that's the real test. Because what's happening in Niscemi today could easily happen somewhere else tomorrow. The town has become a case study for the intersection of climate, geology, and human vulnerability. You've got aging infrastructure, fragile soil, extreme rainfall, and generations of land use all colliding into one crisis. There's no simple fix. You can't just build a wall or dig a drain and call it a day. Resilience means changing how we build, where we build, and why we build. It means factoring in soil mechanics that shift with every rainfall. It means treating climate change as not just an environmental issue, but a full-spectrum threat to human settlements. Niscemi is now under constant surveillance, satellites watching from above, drones mapping every crack, and sensors tracking every shift. That's not overkill. That's the new normal. If you want to save lives and infrastructure in places like this, you need the data. And you need to act before the next storm hits. So here we are. A quiet Sicilian town, known more for olive groves than disaster headlines, now standing as a symbol of something much bigger. The land is moving, the people are gone, and the future is uncertain. If you're watching this, don't scroll past. Share it. Talk about it. This isn't a freak event. It's a preview. Drop a comment if you've seen stories like this in your own region. And if you want more updates on how our world is reshaping itself, sometimes literally, make sure to like, subscribe, and stick with us. We'll be here, watching the cracks widen. Let's be clear, what's happening in Niscemi isn't just a local emergency. It's a slow-motion unraveling of the very ground beneath people's feet, in real time. And the scariest thing, it's not over. Not even close. Authorities didn't wait around to see if this would maybe stop. They moved fast because this isn't the kind of disaster you can fight with sandbags or barricades. Thousands of people were told to leave their homes, their neighborhoods, their entire lives behind. Entire zones of the town were cleared out. Families with roots that run generations deep are now living in shelters, holding on to hope that their homes don't crumble before their eyes, or worse, while they sleep. This isn't the kind of collapse that gives warning signs like a movie earthquake. There's no dramatic shaking, no sirens, just subtle, steady, ground-level betrayals, tiles cracking, doors refusing to close, walls shifting ever so slightly out of place. And by the time you see those signs, the damage is already deep beneath you. Engineers are trying to stay ahead of it, but it's like chasing a shadow. They've got a full suite of tech on it. Satellites tracking the land from space, drones snapping high-res images from above, and sensors buried in the earth measuring millimeters of movement. It sounds high-tech, and it is, but it's also a desperate effort to outrun a creeping catastrophe. Let that sink in for a second. We're tracking centimeters of movement. Centimeters. Daily. And that's a big deal in geological terms. That kind of data doesn't mean maybe something's shifting. It means something already has. The sad twist. This isn't even a surprise. Experts have been warning for years that regions like this, clay-heavy, topographically steep, and historically overdeveloped, are fragile under modern climate stress. It's not about one storm. It's about what happens when our new normal is extreme. Niscemi got slammed by an unusually intense storm. The kind of storm that drops more water than the land was ever meant to handle. And the clay soil under Niscemi, it's notorious. When dry, it holds up. But when it gets soaked, it swells, softens, and slips, turning solid ground into a thick, unstable sludge. It's not just homes sliding, it's the whole ecosystem of infrastructure. Water lines, at risk. Power grids, compromised. Roads, literally being pulled apart. Some of them are warping, some are cracking wide open. In places, the pavement looks like it's been peeled like a banana. And there's no way to know if the next crack is cosmetic or catastrophic. And sure, you might think, well, if it's slow, can't we fix it as it happens? That's the nightmare. No. You can't just patch a wall or pour some concrete. Because what you're really standing on is a landscape that's slowly losing its internal structure. The clay doesn't just move once, it keeps moving. And every time it rains again, it resets the clock. Stabilizing it means drying it out completely, and that could take weeks, maybe months. And even then, there's no guarantee. You can't fix what you can't trust. Meanwhile, displaced families are in limbo. And not just emotionally. Generational farms have been split apart by cracks. Their soil isn't safe. Their harvests are in jeopardy. Some won't be able to recover at all. It's the kind of loss that doesn't get tallied in damage reports. It shows up in family histories, places that no longer exist the way they did just days ago. And don't forget, the psychological weight of this kind of disaster is massive. When your house catches fire, it's sudden, it's terrifying, but it's over. With a landslide like this, you sit in suspense, waiting, watching, hoping the earth beneath your house doesn't betray you next. The science community is using this moment to drive home a much bigger point. This isn't just about faulty drainage or some bad luck. It's about a shifting climate system and a built environment that was never designed for it. Older towns, especially in southern Europe, were built on assumptions that the land would hold, that rainfall patterns would remain steady, that soil mechanics wouldn't change. But that was a different world, a drier world, a predictable one. Now, rainstorms drop record-breaking water volumes. Soils that once supported entire communities become volatile. And there's no reset button. The land remembers every drop. The experts monitoring Niscemi are using next-gen modeling systems to try and predict what comes next, but even those are limited. This is uncharted territory in some ways. The sensors can track the movement, but they can't promise stability. What they can do is provide data that can tell when things are getting worse, when cracks are accelerating, and when new areas might become unsafe. But the real question is, will the world listen? Because Niscemi is not the only place built on fragile clay. Not the only hillside community layered with centuries of roads and pipes and people. Not the only spot where infrastructure intersects with climate extremes. It's just one of the first this year to fall apart under the pressure. And the worst part, you can't even see the full damage from the surface. That's the deception. Streets might look intact. Houses might seem fine from the outside. But underneath, cavities are forming. Slabs are shifting. It's like living on top of a melting cake. Authorities have been blunt. Do not return to evacuated zones. Period. It doesn't matter if the sun is shining or the ground feels solid. That's the point. They always feel solid right before something breaks. And once that threshold is crossed, there's no time to run. Emergency shelters are filling with families who have no idea when they'll go home or if they ever will. Some neighborhoods might be lost entirely. And even if the land eventually stabilizes, rebuilding won't be quick. It won't be simple. And it won't be cheap. The costs, emotional, economic, infrastructural, are stacking up. And this isn't even counting the broader ripple effects. Schools disrupted. Local businesses shut down. Health services stretched thin. The longer the slide continues, the more deeply it cuts into daily life. But there is one thing people are doing right. They're listening to the science. The real-time data, the satellite monitoring, the drone photogrammetry, none of that is optional anymore. It's the backbone of how we respond to disasters like this. Gone are the days of waiting for visible signs. If you wait to see damage in cases like this, you've waited too long. And there's something else worth pointing out. What's happening in Niscemi is a perfect example of why disaster response isn't enough. We need resilience planning. Not just for earthquakes or floods, but for creeping hazards like this, things that don't explode, but instead quietly, relentlessly dismantle everything we thought was stable. It means rebuilding not just stronger, but smarter. Factoring in soil behavior under extreme wetting drying cycles. Designing infrastructure that adapts, that can flex or reroute when the ground shifts. And planning cities not just with engineering in mind, but with climate trends at the center of every blueprint. Because if there's one takeaway from Niscemi, it's this. Stability is temporary, and denial is expensive. So next time someone brushes off climate change as just a rise in average temperature, point them here. To a town torn open not by earthquakes or volcanoes but by rain. By the slow violence of wet earth, shifting quietly under centuries of settlement. The people of Niscemi are now living that reality. And their story isn't over. The monitors are still blinking. The cracks are still growing. And the slope is still sliding. So stay informed. Stay aware. because the ground beneath you might not be as steady as you think. The haunting thing about Niscemi isn't just that it's falling apart, it's that it's still falling. You'd think after mass evacuations, wall-to-wall monitoring, and a global spotlight on the region, things would start calming down. But that's not how this works. The slide doesn't care about media cycles. It doesn't care that residents want to go home or that engineers are racing to shore up fragile ground. It just keeps moving. And every single day, the data confirms it. Cracks in the pavement that widened a few centimeters yesterday are even wider today. Roads once used to get kids to school are now unusable. Fields that fed families for decades are buckled and fractured. What's most disturbing? There's no clear boundary, no clear safe zone. The ground doesn't fail in straight lines, it fails in jagged uncertainty. It doesn't announce where it's going next. It just expands. This isn't just about movement. It's about the unpredictability of a creeping disaster. There's a reason scientists are calling it progressive displacement. It's not that the whole hillside will come down in a dramatic rockfall. That's not this kind of landslide. What's worse is that it slowly undermines everything, hollowing out the ground's integrity until even stable-looking structures suddenly tilt, tear, or collapse. And for the families watching from emergency shelters, it's agonizing. Every new report from geologists, every satellite image released, every rumble after a rainstorm, it's a reminder that the place they called home is not just damaged, but still in danger. Think about that. It's not just about what's been lost. It's about what could still be lost tomorrow. And yet, in the middle of it all, there's resilience. People aren't giving up, but they're also not sugarcoating it. The conversations happening in Niscemi right now are brutally honest. People are asking real questions. When will it be safe? Can we rebuild? What happens if this becomes permanent? These aren't just emotional reactions, they're the reality when disaster isn't a moment, but a process. The takeaway here isn't just geological. It's human. We tend to think of danger as loud and sudden, but sometimes the deadliest threats are the quiet ones, the ones creeping under your feet, the ones you don't notice until it's too late. And in a world of rising temperatures and intensifying storms, this kind of threat is only going to become more common. And if you've been following this story, don't stop now. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to understand the stakes, and drop a comment below. We're tracking every angle of this slow disaster, and if you subscribe, we'll keep you updated the moment anything changes. Because in Niscemi, the ground may be moving slow, but the consequences are coming fast. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.